Okay, guys. It's the 5th of July. We're shooting on my computer because my phone's in the middle of an update and I can't stop it right now, so that kind of sucks. So we're going old school to C920. Also, it's the 5th of July and people are detonating fireworks outside, so if you hear a boom, that's what it's from. There's not World War III happening here. So anyways, I'm going to talk about these guys right here. The NES Classic, there we go, and Super Nintendo Classic, and the differences between the two. So a lot of people, and I'm not talking about like the differences like the controller and stuff. I'll go through that like just in a quick spew, but I'm talking about like the differences in like you intend to buy this, play it, and now possibly add games to it. Like what you need to know. There's a firework. So they're both the same. They both are just HDMI out. So if you have any illusions about putting like light gun games on here, they're not going to work. Stuff that that's like a shooter but doesn't necessarily use a light gun, like say Wild Arms or Revolution X, are going to be fine if you just use like a control pad. So you're fine there. But as far as like using a super scope or something, first of all, it doesn't have the controller support or the controller port for it. It has these, very like Wii U controller ports on it. And the other thing is even if you were able to adapt something to that, those things were meant for CRT screens. They're not going to work on an LCD. So sorry to tell you if you didn't know ahead of time, those aren't going to work. But anything else, you're pretty much good to go. And also I'd say Mario Paint. Mario Paint's not going to work because you don't have a mouse for this anyways. But those are the ones I can think of off the top of my head that you would have issues with. So the thing I'm going to talk about right now is like they both hack the same. You load them in. They'll tell you in Hackchi how to do it, but the step's easy. You hold down the reset, hit the power button. You load a driver onto your computer from Hackchi, so it'll recognize this in its service mode, and then you can dump the ROM and then load a custom ROM on there. It'll allow you to add more games. As far as this guy goes, they're both the same CPU and everything, and they both have 300 megabytes of memory that you can add games to. NES games don't take up very much. One of the games I was kind of worried it wouldn't work on here is Castlevania Dracula's Curse, Castlevania 3. It works fine. It works with the unique memory mapper that was in that game, so that's not an issue at all. It does work. But there's also an issue of like they were trying to keep, like what's called epilepsy protection. So like sometimes in the games, like especially the games that you flash on there customly, if there's like sometimes you'll see like a weird graphical effect or a blur, you can actually go into Hackchi and disable this. In a later video when I actually show how to use Hackchi, I'll show you guys that. But that's something considered. It does do that. It can't be shut off. The only detriment to the system that I can tell is compared to the Super Nintendo is that there is a little bit of a shimmer effect when you're scrolling in 4:3 mode that you don't get on this. But it's one of those things, it's like you're not going to necessarily always notice it, and then a lot of people are just not going to care. When it comes to comparing it to the real thing, Nintendo did a great job. The emulator is really solid on this. It's definitely worth $60, especially if you just want something to play NES games on. Of course, you can get a Raspberry Pi, but if you're like me and you just kind of want it to collect because it's cool, it's from Nintendo, whatever, but then you also have like the ability to add your own games that you want to it, that's kind of a cool sale. And that's why I'm like talking about this right now, so that you know what you're getting into. It's not difficult. Just make sure that when you do Hackchi that you dump your custom ROM and you save that file somewhere, because if anything goes wrong with this thing and you brick it, you can usually always recover it by putting the the ROM back on. But you can put a lot of games on this. You can put a couple hundred games and not run into any issues. Now, this guy has a lot of improvements. One of them being is they put the ability to record said gameplay for up to 45 seconds to a couple minutes on RPGs. So it depends on the game. Games that you add, from what I've seen so far, it's always going to be 45 seconds by default. So it's not really easy. There might be a custom command you could add to make it record more, but from what I've seen, it's 45 seconds. As far as like adding games on this, it's very similar process. It's very similar process to get covers on there. We're going to go through that in a future video. But the thing you need to know about this is, unlike the NES Classic that when you save a game on here, it's just a snapshot, and snapshots don't take up very much memory. The save files on this are easily bigger than the games themselves, because it's doing an active recording of what's going on in the activity of the ROM and all that. So basically a playback, right? For something that's only got 300 megs, that eats up a lot of space. And so when you start getting past like 40, 45 games, if you start filling up those save slots and you start filling up more than like, you know, the 4 save slots, or you start filling up all 4 save slots, like say your kids are playing this or something like that, you're going to start experiencing problems on this thing. And it's not going to be good. Like, I've not had any major problems. I've had it slow down. I've had it hiccup. I've had audio issues, but I've always dumped it back to the original kernel. You know, I've done the factory reset on it because when you do the factory reset, it gets rid of those save files. And that's majority where the problem is when you start adding too many ROMs with those save files, it starts bumping up towards that memory limit. And that's when you start seeing problems here. You can maybe get away with adding a few more games if you're only using 1 or 2 save slots per game, and you know that's all you're going to use. Then you can probably like actually double it up to like 60. But to be safe, I would only really recommend putting 40 on here. And let's be honest, it would be cool to put all the NES games on here, but do you actually play them? That's the question I have for you. So for me, the way I would look at it is I'd look at the games on here, I'd know what they have, and then I'd say to myself, like, well, I really just want the classics, like all the Mega Man games, all whatever. That's easy to do on here. On here, you really have to pick and choose, and that's something you have to know. The other thing I want to say before I go is a lot of people were having a hard time finding controllers. I still saw 2 controllers today for the NES Classic. So I don't know why, but at least in my area, these are easier to find, but I know some people are having issues. If you do get the SNES Classic or you already have it, these do work in the NES Classic. So it's just the A and B button. When you get Hack Chi locked in here and you use it so you got the longer controller cord, you can actually assign Y and X as like turbo buttons above, you know, like, so like Y would be turbo B in that instance. And you can actually set like, you know, like down and select. So I just wanted to make sure I walk through that real quick because I know there's a lot of people picking them up. I know a lot of these are still available out there right now. It sounds like they've got really good stock out there. So there was still 11 in my Walmart today when I went there. And I know GameStop's got these still up for sale. And they have another order online, says it's coming in on the 13th. So these are still available to buy if you're interested. So, is it worth the 60 and 80? That depends on your current library. If you're somebody that doesn't have a lot of cartridges, and you want something from Nintendo, but you're not like going to be like a huge collector, and you think this is going to fit your lifestyle pretty well, I would say go ahead and go for it. Know that the Super Nintendo is going to be a little bit of a pain in the butt because it's going to make you pick and choose your games. Okay, so you can't stick like a library of 300 on here. I know a lot of people say you can, but once you start putting save files on there, you're going to have issues. So, and that just goes to that thing, like I said before, how many games do you really care about that were in most of us with most game consoles and stuff, we maybe have like a library of like 40, 50 games that we really cared about. So, yeah, something to think about. So I'm going to leave you guys there. Sorry if I left anything out. I think I pretty much got everything. But this very much feels like a Generation 2 product, the Super Nintendo, over even knowing that this is being sold in bigger quantities right now. This is very much a Generation 1 product. They didn't change a thing on it. But it is a good product. You know, I can't complain. Like, both of them play for an emulation system pretty damn close to the original console, and that's something I can't usually say for an emulator. So is it worth it? In my opinion, yes. But if you're a real stickler and you have the cartridge library already built up, you might want to look into the Super NT and the I don't think the Analog NT is out anymore, but the Super NT is going to have a shipment this summer, like later in July. And then you can always get the Retro AVS for NES games. That's available now. And those are both FPGA systems. They'll play as accurate as possibly can be, and they both output HDMI. So, anyways, I hope you guys like this video. I just wanted to make sure I get this up and get something out tonight. We'll have something up tomorrow night, and hopefully the video looks a lot better because then my phone will be up and working a lot better. But anyways, you guys have a great night. Thank you for watching the video. Thank you for supporting and stuff. And I will see you guys here and on Twitch when I stream live. All right, later. Bye.